Good morning. My name is Emily Janowski-Halen, and I am the Dean at the University of Akron School of Law. And I just want to say welcome to our first ever IPPI, which I'm saying now we're calling, Emily told me we call it IPPI, which Mark doesn't like. So I'll call it IPPI. We're very excited that we were able to bring IPPI into the fold under our Center for Intellectual Property. And I hope you enjoy your time here in Orlando and your time with your colleagues. But thank you for being here. Thank you to Mark and Mary Claire, who's outside, and Christina and Joshua for putting this together. I think it's going to be a great day.
So the theme of the conference is intellectual property and national success. And there's two reasons we're doing this. One of them is quite obvious to many of you engaged in the Washington policy debates, is that this has been kind of a theme, a go-to theme, particularly in the past year, but for the past several years, to talk about innovation policy and intellectual property policy in terms of national competitiveness. You know, how will it make the United States and or other nations, competitive with each other? How will it help them succeed economically? It's a topic, though, that has interested me my entire academic career. 25, 30 years ago, I remember reading the works of Joel Mokyr. He was one of this year's Nobel economics laureates. And Mokyr talks about the conditions for innovation, for technological innovation and advancement in a society. And when economists study that topic, we often look at it in a forward-looking way. What's the recipe for success? And we're going to talk about that today. But one of the takeaways I got from Mokyr's work was a little different. It was more cautionary. There's nothing inevitable about technological advancement, about progress or economic success. It cannot be taken for granted. Mokyr talked about how fragile the institutions were that support this success, how civilizations have had their moments in the sun and receded. And indeed, what really happened throughout human history is fairly interesting. I like to look at economic history in terms of this single slide. Not very smooth. Okay. Right. Okay. So what's this slide show? World economic history in one picture. Well, what it shows is that the last 300 to 400 years are exceptional in human history in terms of output income per person, in terms of the standard of living that human beings enjoyed. We pretty much idled along that flat line until the 1700s. And what happened then is what many economic historians call the Great Divergence. And it's a topic of much discussion. Why do we get this hockey stick suddenly in human well-being and human income and income per person? And there are many arguments as to why it might have happened. One of them could be, well, we made better use of our resources. The new world was exploited, opened up and exploited, and people made better use of resources. But really, if we look at what makes economies successful, there's a great World Bank study. It's now getting old, so this is from the turn of this century. But if we look at that graph, what you see is the wealth of countries as measured by the World Bank circa 2020. Now, there's a gray bar and a black bar there. What's the black bar? It's not their capital stock. It's not their physical assets. It's not their minerals. It's not their farmland. It's their intangible wealth. The gray part, the smaller part that a lot of countries have fairly in common is, yes, it is that tangible wealth. But what really has made countries succeed in the modern world is intangible wealth, knowledge. It's our know-how. It's what we call intellectual property quite often. So what else? What are the other explanations? Well, there's a few. They're innovative technologies that came about in the past few hundred years. The scientific method, liberal democracy, increasing individual freedom of inquiry, but yes, intellectual property. The economic historian Zarina Khan has spoken at many of our events. And Zarina has a go-to joke. She says, when the U.S. started out at the beginning of our history, she says, it was essentially a banana republic, but it didn't even have bananas. She said what it had was an intellectual property system, and that helped set the stage for greatness. And indeed, many economic historians attribute the Industrial Revolution as it started in England partly to the English patent system. Our patent system was even better. And we also had the copy in terms of encouraging that kind of free economic growth. Zarina Khan's work talks about that. Our copyright system, took what was definitely a cultural backwater and made us into a global powerhouse in culture and soft power. And so when we look at these things as elements of national success, we say this is great. But what we also should never do is take them for granted. Remember that throughout human history, our species idled along at a fairly consistent standard of living until we changed some things. And no country, no civilization is guaranteed its place in the sun. We need to keep doing things right. We need to keep innovating. We need to find new ways to organize our society, our inquiry, our science, our technological production to continue to succeed and thrive. We have not been a leader across all industries, across all time, and we won't continue to be. Other nations will have their moment too. But the question today is what institutions we need to preserve, sustain, and build and innovate in to help us ensure national success. And it's not, in my mind, it's not just the United States we care about. We benefit when every nation has this kind of growth. But yes, we can be a bit parochial here and care about our own national success, and we must not forget the institutions that have made us great and have made us great innovators and creators of the world. And today we'll discuss how to continue those policies and improve them. Thanks. I'm going to turn it over to Joshua.
Thank you, Mark, and thank everyone for joining us today. We've done a conference very much like this in D.C. in the past. This is the first time we're doing this remote, and I'm glad you took the chance to come to nicer weather and hopefully enjoy the parks over the next couple of days and got out of the snow, which I know I'm glad to be out of. I want to take a minute to thank all of our supporters, both our general supporters and supporters particularly for this conference. AbbVie, the American Association of Publishers, Ericsson, Motion Picture Association, NBC Universal, Nokia, Novartis, Pharma, Disney, and Qualcomm, who's not on this because getting permission for their logo was somewhat complicated. Our valued supporters, also AAP, C4IP, Cravath, Wynn and Moore, Eli Lilly, Arella Amanella, ITIF, the Special Competitive Studies Project, the U.S. Chamber of Commerce, and our institutional partners, the Center for Intellectual Property, UIC Law, CIPU, Center for Intellectual Property Understanding, the Emily and John Hansen IP Institute at Fordham, the Chamber of Commerce, IPSJ, Penn State Dickinson, Patent Docs, US IP Alliance, and Washington Area Lawyers for the Arts. Without them, we couldn't put on conferences like this.